toen ik een agregaat zaalfabriek en toen in leiding toen ik. Every year you got something new and interesting. It's not good to say, oh, 15 years ago it was marvelous. But today I can go from Paris to Nice in 1 hour instead of 26. So every time, every moment you find something agreeable. When my father came back from the army in 1918, I got to for which reason I still don't know why they gave me a violin. He disappeared and it's too late to ask him. But he gave me a small violin, he gave that somewhere, maybe to amuse me, maybe to amuse him, I don't know. We were invited to do the pub festival in Cambridge. Apparently I was told it was 25,000 young people, and I said maybe they will think I'm too old for them. I tell you everything, I told you everything. I like to go to the end, play. One day maybe my boat will go up, but I can. The people will share me. I play music to the end.
far tonight? You good? Alright, so tonight I will be taking you on a journey back to the early, the middle and the late 20th century, and of course for a large proportion of those years the mobile phone simply did not exist. So I wouldn't mind if you'd be able to silence your phones or put them on airplane mode, but you can take videos still and photos, just it has to be in black and white, right? We have to keep it, to the 20th century. My name is Emily Gelineau, and I'm very excited to be here with you guys tonight. I'm a violinist, I'm a pianist, I'm a vocalist, I'm a bad cook, and I'm a really good parallel parker. But it's only because I have a Fiat 500, so it's pretty easy, It's not very hard. Tonight I am here to showcase the music of, I don't even want to say the best or the most important jazz violinist, because everyone will argue that there's always someone else there, around. But for me, he is the most influential jazz violinist in the world, because simply nobody else was really doing what he was doing at the time. And he completely changed my musical journey, and I think he changed a lot of people's musical journey. So who saw the show last year? Did anyone come to see the show last year at the Ellington? Oh my gosh, nobody! That's fantastic, because if you did, I was going to tell you to erase it from your memory anyway, so this is brand new and fresh. But this is great, we've got a whole bunch of fresh people. I love this. My second question to you is, I know I do look quite astoundingly young for my age, but I was not alive when Stefan Grappelli was alive. So did anyone get to see him in concert? Wow, that's amazing. I don't know why my mum didn't think of having me sooner. I mean, it's such a shame, really. She's here, I'll ask her later. But anyway. Yeah, it's one of the greatest sadnesses of my life that I never got to really see him perform live. But I have been able to experience his amazing violin playing and his legacy through YouTube videos and reading about him and listening to interviews. Some of you might have just heard at the beginning of the show as well, and hearing how kind of what a cheeky bugger he was. Like, he was quite cheeky, that guy, He loved to have a good time, and you could really hear it through his playing. So I have a little bit of information for you here. In 1917, this was when Stefan first received his violin, and he received it from his father. His father used to work away at the war, and he came home and he gave Stefan a violin. And Stefan actually said to his father that he was quite displeased and would have rather had a bicycle. But I think we're all quite pleased that he didn't get the bicycle. And he said he really didn't know why his father gave it to him, and he left shortly after and didn't really ever get the chance to ask him. So, he never had any formal training, but he would go out onto the streets and he would watch people play, and he would start busking himself, which was something that I did many years ago. And that influenced the way that he played. He did have a few lessons here at the conservatory, a little bit, but he never actually took the violin very seriously. What he did, however, do was play the piano in the early years of his performance. And did you guys know that he was an absolutely fantastic pianist? Oh, see, nobody knows this. It's incredible. So he was performing at the Ambassador Hotel as part of the Gregor's big band, the Gregorian big band. And he was the pianist for that band. And that really started off his jazz journey. He would be there from the early 20s. I think he was there for about 4 to 5 years. And if you have been to one of Stefan Grappelli's shows, you would know that sometimes he just simply puts his violin down and he goes over to the piano and he plays a song that sounds a little bit like this. Oh, I need my violin stand. As a pianist, he would sometimes walk into the lobby bar, and at the lobby bar was a band called the Paul Whiteman Orchestra, featuring probably one of the earliest jazz violinists, Joe Venuti. And he would sit there and he would listen to them, and obviously see Joe Venuti play the violin, an instrument that he had, and he knew how to play. He was quite fascinated by it. Listening to Joe Venuti's sound, it was very commercial. It was quite classical. There wasn't a lot of improvising happening. It was very beautiful notes. It was very typical of the time. You didn't hear a lot of crazy violin, stuff going on back there in the early 20s and 30s. So this is what I think it might have sounded like when Joe Venuti was playing with the Paul Whiteman Orchestra. This beautiful tune called Dinah. A night in 1929 when they all went out and vigorously drank themselves that night, where Gregor asked a little bit more about Stefan, and someone opened up to him and said that he in fact used to play the violin. And Gregor couldn't believe this, and in their drunken state, Gregor was able to find a violin just sitting in the back room of the Ambassador Hotel, and he gave it to Stefan Grappelli, and he said, "Give it a go, play Dinah, play a chorus." And I believe when he picked up the violin, it sounded a little something like this. That, I think everyone was pretty astounded at how Stefan could play, and it very much helped that he was a jazz pianist and he had everything in his ears, so he could very easily transfer it over to the violin. And so from then he started to pursue a little bit more playing the violin, which brings me to probably his most famous project that he was ever part of, which was the Quintet of the Whole Club of France for Django Reinhardt. Do you guys know about that one? Oh, do you guys know about that one? Yes, there we go. So it was about 1931 that he met the jazz guitarist legend Django Reinhardt in his caravan, and they started to play together, and they thought, let's make this happen, let's bring this sound. Now at the time, people in Paris were turning their nose up at this type of music. They basically took what was going on over in America, but made it acoustic, so there was no drum kit, there was nothing like that. And people were not enjoying it. People would actually just walk past the club and say, oh no, I don't want anything about that. Oh gosh, that sounds awful. But over time, they became quite well known in the scenes of Paris as they collaborated with different musicians. They were of course writing a lot of music, and they became absolutely legendary. And this was the type of music that first exposed me to jazz. I was a classically trained violinist, pretty much like any other violinist out there. And it wasn't until I was in my teenage years that I had a beautiful teacher at school who introduced me to gypsy jazz. And the song in which he introduced me to gypsy jazz was, of course, Minor Swing, which, if you guys know, is one of the most classic songs that belong to the Hot Club of France. And we would spend hours in his office, just skipping science class, maths class. I mean, yeah, that's why I can't count today, but that's totally fine. And yeah, you know, you don't need that anyway, do you? And I think there's what, like 50 of you today? Yeah, that makes sense. By the way, thank you for being here. This is amazing to see all these people. Thank you for supporting live music. Thank you for coming all the way to the beautiful Duke of George. This is very exciting. So we would spend hours in his office and just transcribing the solo, you know, on YouTube, just, you know, going back, listen again, back, listen again. And I definitely probably got in trouble a lot for school for doing that, but I was so obsessed with the music and I wanted to play more, I wanted to hear more. And so I want to dedicate these next few tunes to my teacher, who also started a few gypsy jazz bands here in Perth before he moved to Tasmania, Mr. Charlie McCarthy. And there we go. He's a legend, isn't he? He knows how to talk the talk. That great Irish accent, I miss it, hey? So these next tunes, I hope they take you back to the very early days of the Hot Club of France. Thank you. Please put your hands together for the wonderful Aaron, who's playing the role of Django right now. He does have all of his fingers. It was really hard to find a guitarist with the same amount of fingers as Django. And of course, Pete Jevons on the bass playing whoever the bass player was. In the hot button. He can't remember either, so I don't feel as bad, hey? There was some really funny stories about the Hot Club of France. Actually, they did a lot of gigs in their time, and one of the funniest stories would be that they got asked to play for a very high-profile event, and but they had one request for this very high-profile event, and that was if they were okay performing in the nude. And I don't mean just like a little something on the bottom, like no, completely in the nude, right? And they said, okay, and we'll charge you a pretty significant fee for that, I suppose. What a strange gig, let's go and do it. So they rock up at this beautiful mansion for this amazing event, and they're behind a curtain, and they're all completely in the nude. And then the curtain opens, and all the guests are dressed in ball gown attire, and it is just them on the stage. And Stefan Grappelli says, it was okay for the other guys because they had their guitars. But Stefan just had his violin, so there was really nothing to cover him, right? He was feeling rather exposed. I did ask the guys actually backstage what they would possibly charge for such a gig. Aaron hasn't thought about it, and Ryan said absolutely no, but Pete actually, he told me that every Wednesday he does it for free at a place called The Moon, which is very aptly named. Yeah, and he does that. No, I'm kidding. He does actually play every Wednesday at The Moon, so if you are interested in a little weeknight jaunt, he is with all his clothes, I very much promise that. But every week he has a different jazz trio that he heads up, and they play every Wednesday at The Moon. So definitely go and check that out, and bring your clothes, that'd be great. No problem. So this kind of brings us to an end of the era, which was around the war, and obviously that was a very hard time for France and many European countries and everyone around the world. And this was the time where Django and Stefan were both forced out and moved to respective places in the world, going to England and London, and they spent a bit of time apart. But this next tune we're about to play was a sort of so-called unofficial anthem for the French people that brought them a little bit of hope and a little bit of feeling of liberty during that time of the war. And this is the beautiful tune called Nuage. Gosh, I really felt like I was back then. That was amazing. So that last song was called Daphne, and that was composed by Gelineau and Stefan. And when asked who Daphne was, who was it inspired, they said it was a lady that used to come and watch them. And in Stefan's words, she was one of the most beautiful women he had ever seen in his life. So I don't know if anything really happened between two or maybe the three of them, who knows? But we'll leave that to the imagination, shall we? That's a different show, yeah, exactly, that's a different show. So this signifies the post-war era now, when Stefan had to really change his sound. There was no longer a need for the type of swing that he was doing, and especially as a violinist, it was particularly hard. So he was having to branch into genres such as bebop and play a little bit more commercially and find a sound that was able for him to play gigs and for him to have work. And one of the genres that he stumbled across as this musician was making a tour around Europe and living in Paris was Brazilian music. He had quite a large collaboration with Brazilian artist Baden Powell when he was touring Europe in the 60s and the 70s. And the way that Stefan was able to improvise and pick up tunes so easily by ear made him fit so naturally into the Brazilian music that Baden Powell introduced to him. Me personally, I've been very involved in Brazilian music for the last few years, and I promise you it has absolutely nothing to do with the fact that I'm engaged to a Brazilian. It was of my own volition entirely. May or may not be. And it's a genre that it keeps defying my expectations of how incredible the country is, but also how vast the music is. It can be very jazzy, and a lot of the songs were made a little bit more popular in the jazz era with Stan Getz and João Gilberto in this collaboration. And had Stefan continued to work on his relationship with Baden Powell and play, I honestly think that violin may have become a slightly larger part of Brazilian music, but it sort of ended because Baden Powell was travelling so much and he was touring, and the two of them were never in the same place really at the same time. You can't rewrite Stefan Grappelli's history, but I can write my own, so I'll give it a try. And I wanted to show you something I've got over here actually, it's very cool. There we go. Brazilian helper over there. I have this amazing album that I purchased in Sao Paulo. It's really rare. It's very hard to find, even on the Spotify and the Apple Music and all of that. It's very rare. I don't think it exists. It's Stefan Grappelli and Baden Powell, and the name of the album is called La Grande. I don't know how to say it in French. La Grande Réunion. Hopefully that was okay. Sorry if you're French.
Pretty good.
And
pretty good.
Oh, thank you. Gosh, and it's an absolutely beautiful album, and they play everything from very classic Brazilian bossa nova tunes to a little bit more samba, a little bit more Afro samba, and a few of Baden Powell's compositions himself. So if you guys want to come and have a look at the records later, please feel free. It's a beautiful album, but please don't take them home because I really like it. But yeah, it was an absolute gem to be able to find this in Sao Paulo in Brazil when we went there. It was not very expensive either, so I would highly recommend you have a guys look. And we're going to play a selection of two tunes that do exist on this album, two very well-known Brazilian tunes. And we kind of want to pay homage to both Stefan's journey and how he plays it, and of course the traditional roots of the music. I'll put it back here. Yeah, I know. Quando eu vou cantar, você não deixa. E sempre vem a mesma queixa. Diz que eu desafio, que eu não sei cantar. Você é tão bonita, mas sua beleza também pode se enganar. Se você disser que eu desafio, saiba que isto em mim provoca imensa dor. Sou privilegiado, extremo vivo igual o seu. Eu posso até a bênção que Deus me deu. silêncio pacifica meu comportamento de musical. Pra mais um sentido devo argumentar que isso é bossa nova, que isso é muito natural. O que você não sabe nem sequer presente. O Deus desafinados também tem coração. Fotografei você na minha Rolleiflex, revelou-se a sua enorme gratidão. Só não poderá falar assim do meu amor. Ele é o maior que você pode encontrar, viu? Você com sua música esqueceu keeping the Duke of George nice and busy with those drink orders. Yeah. It's amazing to have you guys here again, really. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. Fringe is a busy time for us artists, and it's amazing to be able to perform live music in front of you guys, so thank you for being here. All right, we only have a few more left for you, but I cannot not mention one of the biggest collaborations that Stefan Grappelli has, or had, and that was with the amazing Yehudi Menuhin. You guys know Yehudi Menuhin? Yeah. Arguably one of the most beautiful and, in my opinion, best classical violinists of his time. And he was very inspirational for me. He died in my birth year, which is kind of cool. And when I was very young, I auditioned for this school that he founded in the UK. It's called the Yehudi Menuhin School. And I was accepted. I got to go over there for a few weeks, which was amazing. But of course, it was the year that, the English budget went, so I didn't get to go. Oh, it's really fine. It's so cold. No thanks. I like the heat. It's great. I did, however, maybe 10 years later, move to Boston and lived there for 5 years in the cold. So I got my fix of it. It's fine. But the collaboration between the two of them was really quite unheard of because they both had a very signature style. Yehudi Menuhin had this beautiful playing. It was so emotional. But he didn't have the improvisation chops that Stefan Grappelli did. Like very many classical musicians, we're not taught in the classical tradition, and I really hope this is something that we can all change, and I can change as a musician. We're not taught to play what you feel. Sometimes it's very hard as a classical musician to just pick up your instrument and play something from the top of your head because it's not something you're used to doing. And that was the case for Yehudi Menuhin. However, he was very inspired by Stefan Grappelli and his cheekiness, his ability to pick up the instrument and play whatever the heck he wanted in that moment, right? So the first albums that they recorded together was Jealousy. That was their first album. I believe it was 1976. There we go, 1976. And the second album after that was Tea for Two, which was probably their most acclaimed album to today. Unfortunately, it's also not very readily available. It's very hard to find. But in a way, I like that. It keeps the secret of what they did, and I think it keeps it very small for those who are able to buy that CD or buy that record. You have the magic of it at home, and I think that's very important still. So I'm going to play you both of those title tracks from those two albums, and hopefully, I know there's only one of me here today, but hopefully I can embody the spirit of both of them at the same time. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to introduce you to the band one more time. Please give a round of applause for Ryan Dawn on the drums. Pete Devins on the bass. And Will Aaron on guitar. We have one more for you tonight. And this next one comes from a very special place in my heart. It's another record over here. Let me grab it for you. My mother found this in a Midland record shop. I think it's called Midland Records. And this is his 1974 tour of Australia. So he did quite a few tours to Australia. Obviously, some of you guys, did you see him in Australia, for those guys that saw him? Yeah, right? So he did quite a lot of tours, and this particular tour was with Diz Dizzly Trio, so a great few musicians from the UK. And listening to this over and over has just been amazing. He is so cheeky that he throws little things in there and says, "G'day," you know? He goes little Australianisms, and it's just absolutely beautiful. So what I want to do for you as our last song is I'm going to play for you a medley of some of the songs that he played on this amazing record and this amazing tour. And there's a little bit of an Australian surprise at the end, which also pretty much surprised me when I had a listen. So if you want to sing along, go for it.
Get your microphone.
last tune. Yeah. Super fast. I think we can. Here we go.